Hey there, balanced lady bosses. Welcome to this epic conversation. And when I say this one is going to be epic, you already know, just based on the title, that we are talking all the things. Let me just make sure my mic is on. Mic check. Because women of the balanced lady boss community, you know that this conversation has been trending a lot, primarily since the pandemic. What conversation am I talking about? Soft life. Who doesn't want a soft life? The soft life is amazing. The soft life is where it's at. The soft life is for those of us who want to have success without the stress, overwhelm, and burnout. Like, hello, people, soft life isn't new. It just has a trending hashtag that is now on social media. Am I taking this personally? Maybe just a little bit. And I'll share why. And that's exactly what this episode is about. We're going to be talking all things soft life and success. We're going to demystify some of the things that it's not, right? Get to the real deal of it. Let's have a mature conversation about soft life. And we're going to talk about why it should not be taken lightly, why it shouldn't be ignored, why the conversation is one that should be had. And it's not just for a particular generation, right? I have been talking about the soft life since the inception of the Balanced Lady Boss show. That was what, 2018? Now, I'm not going to get into the wars with anybody on Twitter. I have no interest in that, about where it came from, who said it first. Because the truth of the matter is that the discussions around self care and managing stress, overwhelm, and burnout are now trending in a different way because we have access to so much visibility across so many channels. But it's been in the space for a while. And as a matter of fact, when I did the first Balanced Lady Boss tour, it was specifically around a blueprint that I had developed that was called the Balance Basics Blueprint, which is right here. If you're watching the YouTube, which you guys should subscribe to my channel if you're listening and not already subscribed. But the blueprint is still alive and well, and I use it quite a bit in my current programs. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think one of the two things are happening. One, soft life is being treated as something that is actually bad, and that it's negative. It's being treated in a negative connotation, and it's also being treated as though it's a fad. This is the latest new thing. The definition is in the Urban Dictionary along with some other interesting definitions that I can't speak to on this show, right? And also, it seems to be misunderstood by quite a few. And so I wanted to use this conversation to just clear up the misconceptions and to also ensure that you understand that soft life has been here. It's a little bit louder now, but it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And I'm an advocate for same. So y'all can start to beat me up now if you want to. But yeah, let's have this conversation. All right. So first things first, the soft life has nothing to do with money. I mean, and I'll stick a little, asterisk there. It helps if you have great deals of money that you can spend at your leisure, disposable income, right? However, it really isn't about the money, because a lot of the practices that are a part of what is now being called soft life don't necessarily require heavy spending. So that's the first thing. It really has nothing to do with money, uh, despite the way that social media has kind of made it seem as though, well, it's really all about the persons who are on social, who are living the high life, eating at the best restaurants and traveling everywhere, and working from anywhere and having the laptop life and da 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 da. But that kind of sound like my life still. So what does that mean, right? Yeah, so social media has amplified this conversation to another level and with a specific demographic. So that's the reason why it is, I think, somewhat vilified, because you were raised, at least let me clarify that. Gen Xers and baby boomers, both phase one and phase two baby boomers, were all raised with the conversation of you have to work hard for everything in life. Life is hard, but you work for it, right? That was the message. And that message came from the experiences that had historically come along with working. What has happened since then is we've had some more kids, and they have seen us working hard while being mothers and wives, and they've seen all the different things that come along with that, all the different stressors, all the different critical illnesses, hello, that come along with the quote unquote um you know standard bearer for what hard work looks like. And they don't want to be a part of that. It's almost as though, when the pandemic happened and everybody realized how much we were actually working ourselves into the ground and how much we haven't been taking care of ourselves and paying attention to our needs, our kids woke up. They were like, hold on a second. So it looks like you guys believe that you have to work yourself into the grave in order for you to be successful. No, let me go check out this stuff over here where they're talking about get rich easy and manifestation and art of allowing and law of attraction. And let's go talk about that. And oh, by the way, I also want to experience a really high quality of life. And I don't necessarily want to have to be stressed out while I'm getting there. I don't believe, however, that every single Gen Zer believes that you don't have to work, which I think is the this is the misconception associated with the soft life conversation, right? Um, it doesn't mean that you're not working. It doesn't mean that you are not actually spending time earning money, actually putting effort out to earn an income so that you can afford this life, right? For some persons, it may look like, well, I'm going to make sure that the relationships that I have help me to actually have this kind of life. So both me and my partner know that these are things that I value. The things that are associated with the soft life are things that I value. And so I'm not going to be, stressing out myself to try to earn my living, right? I want to be able to earn and work in a way that supports my wellness. All right. So for some of you, you may be thinking, well, I don't know if that's what it's about, Stacey, because I see the kids out here and they're all on social media and everybody thinks that it's an easy life and they don't have to work for what they get. They just want a handout. There is that opinion out there. And here's what has happened, guys. So let's be really clear about it. What has happened is, and I can use myself as an example, many of us who are hard workers, who came up at a time where our parents were hard workers, right? We learned that working X number of hours or X number of jobs is what equals your happiness, because you have more money, so then you can afford to do the things that will make you happy, to buy the things that will make you happy, to live in the house that will make you happy, so it was very much attached to working was attached to the things of life that we may not have had. So many persons that are now proclaimed successful and wealthy people came from what they call humble beginnings. And I'm not any exception to that, right? So I was born to teen parents, and one lived in America, one lived in Jamaica, and I was raised with my grandparents and my aunt and uncles and my mom. And so I already knew, I mean, from an early age, I already knew that I wasn't going to take anything in my space for granted, right? So I did grow up seeing a lot of hard working happening. My grandmother was a homemaker and eventually went out and also started doing teaching. And my grandfather worked all the time. He was a mechanic. He was a mechanic. And so he worked lots of long hours. Always underneath the car, you see him there. You see his legs out underneath the car. But that's what I grew up seeing. And then of course, I was in a home where the teaching was all about making sure that you worked hard, you went to school, you got your education so that you could get a good job and provide for your family. Very family centric, very nurturing. You don't want to be suffering. You want to make sure that you have food on the table so that the kids can eat. And this is the conversation, right? And I didn't grow up thinking that my life was abnormal. I know I did not have access to some things. I went to school with, when I was in my early high school days, I went to a high school that had some very wealthy kids from wealthy homes, I should say. And so I got exposed to things that I didn't have at home that I wondered, oh, wow, it would be so nice to have those things. And then backtracking that to, oh, well, that equals having money, right? We weren't talking about self-care and wellness and mental health, and that just wasn't a part of the conversation. Certainly not in my household. I wasn't going to a therapist. My mom wasn't supporting me with therapy through so on. So because those things were quite costly, and at the time, the stigma around that stuff was also not necessarily as accepting as it is today. So the reality is that generationally, we have been shifting the conversation about work as time passed by, because now I grew up hard worker, went to school, got my degrees. I've had at least 2, 3 jobs at a time for most of my life, my working life. I started working at 16, and a very go-getter kind of personality, promoted several times. Like that's been my journey, my life. And as a part of that, I really lost sight of, or was never introduced to until much later, the need to be really taking care of myself. So taking a hard life easy was a thing. I think for some people it is still a thing. You ask them, how are you doing, boy? I'm taking a hard life easy. For me, however, eventually not focusing on myself enough and making sure that I didn't have too much stress and toxicity in my environment created uh, illness, critical illness, and several other challenges in my life. And so at that point, it really became very present to me that, I don't want my kids to have the experiences that I had. I don't want them to have to suffer or struggle. Like, those were conversations I was having. And I know that many parents in their 40s are having those conversations with themselves too. And of course, you want to provide for your children things that you may not have had. And the kids now are looking at you like, okay, well, there must be a way that I can actually create success without creating all of the other things that you said, mommy, aren't really good for me. And then here we go. We have it now called soft life, right? So I think that it's something that is here to stay. Whether or not the term stays is not the point. The fact of the matter is that critical illnesses are real, stress-borne illnesses are real. Overwhelm and burnout is a toxic situation in most countries. As long as there is working happening, it exists. And so we are not, this is not just about a trending situation or a trending phrase, or where, black women are out there saying, yes, I want a soft life because it's the thing to say, or because it's a social media hashtag. It's so much more than that, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. Let's look at what I would consider the kind of 3 main principles around creating soft life success as a woman in corporate, right? Because I don't believe that this phenomenon called the soft life is relegated to just our new Gen Zers who are eventually going to enter office, or maybe some of our millennials who are in that space already. In the basics blueprint, which I'm gonna share a free download for. Yes, that's right. I have a digital copy, and you will get a free download in the show notes. In the basics blueprint, I actually walk through what I believe a soft life is really about. It's a mind, body, soul experience that deep allows you to provide deep focus on things other than the technical skills that you have or the work that you're doing. So I'm going to make sure that you get a copy of this and that you're able to really, dissect it a little bit more than just what you would get in this episode. But the three primary things that I would say are uh, important, or the three main areas that I think are from a thematic perspective, coming out of this soft life conversation are self awareness, your values, and your priorities. Now, I know that these terms can sometimes feel a little overused, yeah? But truth be told, if you are seeking soft life success, these are your top three areas of focus. So let's start. Self awareness. Self awareness is the key anchor, foundational principle in leadership and in life. When you become a self aware woman, it allows you to see how you're showing up, both for yourself as an individual and in how you relate to the situations and circumstances and people in your life. It's like discovering diamond in coal when you can really tap into and become self aware. It's almost like you're waking up from a deep sleep that you've been in for decades, when you can finally see yourself. If you are not able to see yourself, then accessing what soft life really is becomes about the money and the relaxation and the not doing anything. It is not about life success. It's not about succeeding. It's about keeping up with the Joneses and having nice Instagram pictures. Okay? So, self awareness is the first key area of focus when you are looking to create a soft life. Self awareness allows you to really become present to the different areas of yourself where you're experiencing hard life. So if you want a soft life, you have to know which part life hard first, don't? Because not all of us are having struggles in all areas. No. And so it's important for you to acknowledge within yourself where life isn't working for you and understanding how you are contributing to that. All right, next thing. Second thing you have to focus on if you want soft life. What are your values? Values are an interesting thing, and there's lots of studies and conversations on values, etc. But the way that I like to look at values are the beliefs that drive your behavior and drives the expectations of behaviors that you have for other people, right? The way that you expect other people to behave when they are relating or dealing with you. That's what your values are. Okay? It's a belief in a set of behaviors, either that you are exhibiting or that you expect from people. And the reason why I think it's a belief system is because your values can change. And so if your belief changes, then your values change because your behavior is going to change. Now, what do values have to do with living a soft life? Well, if you have a high value for time, right? When you live in hard life, the way that it may show up is, oh God, I don't have no time to spend any quality time with the kids. Boy, I really wish I had some time so that I could, rest some more. I really wish I could get more sleep, but I don't have no time for sleep because I have so much work to catch up on. Gosh, I wish I had time to take a vacation. That's what it looks like when time is a high value for you, but you're in the hard life world. If time is of significant value to you and you now want to flip that to a soft life experience, it looks more like, I'm going to create some healthy boundaries around my time so that I can take a vacation that is not just once a week for the year, so that I can spend more time with my kids if I have children, maybe spend more time with my parents if that's what's important to me, so that I can do absolutely nothing at all. I can sit in the tub and read a lovely book, or I can Netflix and chill, right? So I'm creating healthy boundaries to protect my calendar, to protect my time zones, whatever it is, but you are now creating support for yourself so that you can honor the value of time that you have. Do you see that? Oh, that's so good. Yeah, that's so good, right? So if you have a high value for time, that is what it would look like when you say, I'm going to really focus on my values so that I can create soft life success from my values. The third and final area that you need to focus on when you are creating a soft life towards success are your priorities. How are you prioritizing the different things in your life? So we already have the self awareness piece worked out. So you've already done some sort of assessment to determine, these are the things that are important to me. These are the areas where I have gaps, where I'm not really, or I'm feeling a lot of stress and overwhelm. I'm feeling a lot of burnout happening, experiencing a lot of tiredness or, exhaustion or just, high levels of fatigue. Maybe I'm getting sick, etc. We've already talked about self awareness. We've talked about values, which are the beliefs that ultimately lead to a creation of certain behaviors that you display. So you already kind of understand now why you get triggered. When your values are out of alignment with what you're experiencing, you get these triggers, and these triggers are what cause that feeling of overwhelm or that feeling of stress, and you start to have whatever panic attacks, etc. So when you talk about prioritization now, we're getting into how you're actually going to experience the soft life in the things that you're prioritizing around you. So let's look at self-care. Is self-care a priority for you? For me, self-care was not a priority, and I didn't even know it wasn't a priority until I got sick, right? Now the conversation about self-care is so prevalent, it's everywhere, right? So you may be hearing about it, but maybe you're not actively practicing it, right? So that can be another thing, is that you're hearing about it, but you're not actively practicing. So if self-care is something that you want to prioritize, then it's good to identify it and to now start to make intentional steps towards creating those self-care practices. What does self-care mean to me is a question that you could ask yourself as you are starting to prepare for this soft life creation, right? Another thing that you can look at is if whether or not this is a priority. Relationships. Are good relationships a priority for me? And this can be a relationship with a colleague at work, or with my boss at work, or with my friends, my girlfriends, or with your spouse or your love partner. Are relationships a priority? Because if the answer is they're not, but I want them to be, then it is okay. What does having good relationships look like? Maybe you can start off with what does having a bad relationship look like, because then it's easier to point to well, this is the opposite of that, right? So if it is that you want to prioritize self-care, then you have to actually identify it as a priority. How do you know what you're prioritizing? Based on where you're seeing yourself spend the most time. For example, if you look through the week that has passed and you recognize that you spent most of the time working, you barely got any sleep, and you put off hanging out with your friends for the third time, and you haven't really seen your love partner, at least maybe you passed like ships in the house, but you haven't really seen each other, then you know that maybe my priorities are really right now just about work, and I'm not bringing in any of the things that are going to give me this soft life experience. So you have to really understand, first of all, where your priorities are currently by looking at, I say a week. Look over a week, then look back at the last 2 weeks, then look at the month and see where you actually spent most of your time. Where has your energy gone? Where has your energy gone? Where has your time gone? Right? That is your priority. And if a lot of your energy and time is going into not doing things that are supporting your wellness, then you may want to reprioritize based on your current desires. Okay? So that's my take on soft life. That is not new. It's actually the balanced lady boss lifestyle that I've been inculcating for myself and others since 2018. So I say to you guys out there, my balanced lady bosses, that it is available to you, and it is available to you right now. You do not have to be a Gen Zer who is just on social media and is following this trend. You do not have to be extraordinarily wealthy. You do not have to be expecting to be traveling everywhere and eating at the finest restaurants and taking the most glamorous pictures to post on any social media platform. That's not the priority of living a soft life. That's not what living a soft life is about. Living a soft life is about creating success for yourself while letting go of the things that are creating overwhelm, stress, and burnout for you. The things that are introducing or inviting toxic circumstances and relationships into your life. I truly believe that we all deserve to have a life that is full of passion and wonderful experiences. And it's not that you're not going to work. It's not that you're not going to put out effort. You're just going to be mindful of your whole self while you are doing those things. Mind, body, and soul. Anyway, guys, take care. Thanks so much for listening to this epic. I hope you have a better understanding of what soft life is and is not. And make sure you download our Balanced Basics Blueprint so that you can start to deep dive into the areas that you want to focus on so that you can live a soft life towards success. Take care, everybody.